Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Episode Teardown. Got a fun and exciting episode for you guys this Friday because about a year ago I did a video on Operation Tiger playing it under MAME emulation, and in that entire time I was trying to hunt a PCB. To say this thing is exceedingly rare would be an understatement. I know of one other private owner of this board, and there is one on an arcade floor in Japan. Outside of that, I have no evidence any of them exist, but there is one here and we're going to be talking about it today and getting it running on camera. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, I'm going to Patreon link down below as well. Now, the gameplay footage you're seeing is still from MAME because I am not done with this project, but a lot of you guys have been asking for more modification work and more deep dives into arcade hardware, so this is a test. If this one does good, I will do a modification part for number 2. But this board is something that took me over 2 years of active hunting to find, and I finally found it out of China, and I am so glad to finally have it here. There is only one game that runs on this board, and it is Operation Tiger. When taking a look at the front, the first thing you're going to notice is this is in no way, shape, or form JAMA, nor is it JVS. This is a custom bespoke filter board here that's going to have all of the different inputs in completely different places, which means that off the top, we can't even power this thing up yet. You'll see we have a connector over here that's going to be all of our power, and we'll get to that in just a moment. We're going to have a sound connector for stereo sound as well. I'm not sure if I'm going to do stereo, maybe hopefully I can just mix that down to mono. I've got a video port here for RGB, and then I have this gigantic connector on the bottom that is going to be for controls. And if you want to see me wire up the controls on camera, leave me a comment down below and tell me if you want to see it. I'm happy to do it if you guys are interested. Thankfully, the Taito engineers gave us test points for 12 volts, 13 volts, 5 volts, and ground. This makes wiring up the board so much easier because I have a test point to make sure that all of my continuities for power are correct. But we will be getting to that in just a moment because we still got to do the teardown and tour. On the top there is a massive fan. It is a 12 volt unit and it sounds like a jet engine trying to take off for an intercontinental flight. This thing is massively loud and I'm definitely going to be replacing it in the future, maybe with a low profile 5 volt if I can find one, if not something like a Noctua 12 volt that is much quieter. And this thing comes in a massive metal case. It's one of the biggest metal boxes I've ever seen for an arcade board that was not PC based. Not a hell of a lot to see all the way around the end. It is just one steel box with it bend in the corners here, but otherwise this thing is probably bomb proof. Don't hit it with a sledgehammer, but you should be fine. Now, taking a look at the front, there's going to be 8 different screws you need to remove to get into one of these if you ever find one. And if you do have one, I would love to know down below, or if you even played Operation Tiger, if you ever seen a cabinet, tell me. Although this did not come out in North America, it is a Japanese exclusive. And through the magic of editing, we have all 8 of those screws out, and this board pulls out basically almost like a rack-mounted server. It is on rails inside of the case to protect it and keep it straight. And as you see here, this thing is a massive board. It is populated with so many different chips, and a lot of the chips are only ever used on this one board and never seen again. But if we take a look here, we have 2 massive sound amplifiers, one for the left channel and one for the right channel on stereo. And we have all of these custom Silk Taito chips. These are going to be a lot of the 3D chips. I do not know if Taito developed them. They are listed as being developed by Taito on different documents, but this is probably a rebranding of some sort of DSP chip to handle some of that 3D. And up top we have the RAM chips for the unit as well. Apparently sometimes these can go bad, but these seem fine on my unit at least. Taking a look down below, underneath that heatsink we have a PowerPC 603 processor used in this board and a couple other devices like torpedoes for the US Army. That is true, they use the same chip to guide them into ships. And then we have a couple other chips at the bottom here. It's not the most densely populated board I've ever seen, that would be the Hyper Neo Geo 64, but it is still a massive board, and you will see here, it still has the Operation Tiger serial sticker on it. And the good thing is if you have a board that is Operation Tiger, you know it's not a conversion because it's the only board to ever exist. We also have 2 Zoom sound chips here. That's going to be the sound hardware for the board, and we have another matching Operation Tiger sticker up at the top. But I do love the design and development of this board. It is such an elegant look. It is very well labeled, and you can basically make out what everything is all the way around. And like I said, this board only plays this game. There is a Type JC board that uses a Motorola 68040 chip in place of that PowerPC with some less powerful digital signal processors, and if I ever get that board I will talk about it. Up top you will see there is this edge connector that goes into the filter board. You do not have to have the filter board to connect this. You could go raw pins here, but it would require a lot of tracing out of those pins to understand what you're doing. But this isn't just one board, because if you flip it over, we have the actual ROM board for Operation Tiger. The CPU board is going to execute all the code. This board here has all the code that is going to be executed. And you will see that it is a mix of EEPROMs and other types of chips. All of the ones with labels are going to have a UV erasable window on them, and those stickers are from the factory. We're going to leave them as is. And the nice thing is they're always all coded. That way if one chip goes bad, if the game is dumped in MAME, you can take those MAME dumps and restore any board from them. I may do a video on that in the future if need be, or if people are curious. And you will see, like I said, some of these chips are not user programmable. They are done in a factory, and the other ones you could erase and write again. That is the difference. It's just always kind of like that on boards, but this has a decent amount of chips. It's not the most I've ever seen on a board. It's not the smallest either, and even on there, there's going to be different models of chips with different markations on them, and those are going to be the different ROMs within the main ROM set if you ever need them. If we take a look at the top, there's a couple more ROM chips, and we also have 2 crystal oscillators right here, as well as whatever the hell that is. It looks like a capacitor and also a speaker at the same time. I've never actually seen that shape on a board, so if you know what it is, leave me a comment down below. I'm thinking capacitor because I've never heard this thing beep whatsoever, but I'm not sure. And you'll see there's the other edge connector for the ROM board. And if we take a look at the top, this is where all the controls go in here. And when I received the board, there is a fried 13-volt rail as well as a ground rail, and that goes to one of the gun solenoids. Those tend to burn out a lot, and thankfully I'm not going to be using that on this board, so it really isn't an issue. I could bodge it, but what's the point if I'm not going to be using that? But the thing about this filter board, like I said earlier, it's not JAMA, it's JVS, it's its own format, and we need to convert that because we're not running this in an original cabinet. And how I do that is using JAMA fingerboards with all of the different inputs in. You'll see here I have coin, tilt, things such as that, as well as a video harness behind that for RGB, my ground, as well as my sync cable. And over on the right, we have the big power area. 4 5-volt rails, 4 ground rails, and 1 12-volt rail, which is going to be for the audio amps. As we take a closer look here, I still have not wired up sound because I'm not sure if I'm going to try to mix stereo into mono or if I'm going to use an external sound device. But these fingerboards are absolutely spectacular. You can buy them on eBay. I'll leave a link below. Just don't buy them all because I definitely still need some, and I just ordered another 5 before I put this video up. They have all of the inputs you need to convert anything over to JAMA, so long as it's 15 or 24 kilohertz. I do not believe this is going to work for something like Naomi without extra hardware in between, but hey, maybe if you can figure that out, you let me know down below. And you will see right now, this is a mess of spaghetti. It's a rat's nest of wires. And that is because when I first tested this board when it came in, I did not have the connectors and I was impatient and decided to just raw dog some pins on the end there. Now I know what I'm doing, and even I know I should not be doing this. If you make one mistake, one of those pins is misconnected, or if it bends over and bridges the next pin right here, you're basically screwed. You are not as fast as lightning. Well, maybe your partner might say you are, and that would be a problem in and of yourself. But all jokes aside, don't do this. I do it every once in a while, but I never show you how to do it. This is how I first tested the board, and I do have some heat shrink insulation on there, but even still, not a great idea. Here's what we should be doing. I got the connectors off DigiKey, and I will leave a link to the connectors below in case anybody needs them for this board. I'm sure you're not going to. It's probably extremely rare and you won't see another one, but just in case, I will leave that information below. These can be a little bit fiddly and they are hard to fit, but I do have a separate connector for video as well, so we can build a JAMA to Operation Tiger wiring loom and harness all the way. And sometimes DigiKey's out of the right mating parts with the amount of pins, so I just have these 3 connectors hanging off the edge. I could cut them off if I wanted, but I can just leave them sitting there, so I have that audio connector as well. Sometimes things aren't perfect, sometimes parts are out, but I have the connectors for audio, for video, and for power ready to go. But the big thing is, where do you even put the pins in the first place? We do have that pin out as far as the voltages are concerned, but we don't have a video section. This is why when I'm hunting for boards, if I see a manual for sale, I'll buy it before I even find the board. Because all this is in Japanese and 90% of the information is impenetrable to me. The wiring diagram in the back is always in full English. Sometimes there aren't manuals available online, and it means you can't hook anything up without probing it and getting lucky. But with a manual, having the wiring diagram, I know where absolutely everything needs to go, including the controls, which, like I said, if you want to see a part 2 to this video, tell me down below and I will definitely make it. But this allows me to know the exact pin out where I have to hook everything up and what not to hook up, like that 32 volt rail there for solenoid A and B. I'm not going to be using feedback in my control plan, so I'm not going to be connecting that whatsoever. And it's not that I just collect arcade boards and the manuals, I also love getting all of the artwork along with them, and I buy them in advance because I have this sneaking suspicion that when I start getting art in for a game, my odds of actually finding that game go up. I do not know why, it's 100% a superstition, but every time I do it, I find a board relatively quickly afterwards, so I'm always buying the art. But we need to stop raw dogging the pins into the connectors, and we need to actually build the wiring harness. You can convert almost anything over if you've got a pair of wire strippers as well as some pin crimpers. I'll pop the pins off the end because these are not even the right pins for the posts on the board. They just fit a little bit, and that's good enough for me. So all I'll do is strip some of the insulation back, and I'll be able to get the correct pin on it. And again, I will leave those in the link below. If you're trying to pin something and you want a tutorial, I will leave a link in the description below, but basically you remove the insulation and you put that rubber insulating jacket into the first set of teeth there. If for any reason all of the wire goes too far into the connector, you can just come in with your wire cutters and trim those metal shavings away. You will see here I'm doing it away from all the sensitive electronics, and I highly recommend keeping a vacuum around to get rid of all of those little metal bits. Do not get them anywhere they don't need to be. Once you have the right length of actual exposed wire there, you'll go ahead and fit that pin, and with your wire strippers, there's always crimps on the end. We're just going to bite down on those legs so that it holds the insulation tight. That way when you bring your pin crimpers out, it's not going to fall off. Depending on what gauge wire you're using, you're going to put it in that hole, and I will leave a link to the crimpers I use below. And they are extremely good. I've had them for like 5 years. They're like 40 bucks and they're amazing. It takes a little bit to line it up on camera, but when you're lined up, just push down and you're going to have a nice mechanical joint there, basically what a cold solder would be. And if we take a look there, it is bitten into the jacket, it is crimped onto the metal wire. We have a solid connection. If you poke it with your finger and it's wiggling left and right, it might be that you push too hard and you've actually broken the wires inside. Just be careful, and like I said, follow that tutorial if you need one. I populated most of the ports on this connector, and I'm going to go ahead and put the 12 volt in for audio right now. Sometimes they can be a little bit of a pain in the butt to push in. If it's not going, don't force it, just wiggle it back and forth, and you can always use a pair of tweezers just to slightly push on the back end. But when it goes in, you'll hear a nice click, and it is now locked into place. Having these connectors built now, we can just start populating things. And again, I told you I have not done the audio yet because I'm not sure what I want to do. Video port in as well as the power, and now we have basically a conversion from whatever standard the PowerPC JC board for Taito is using into a JAMA connection. But of course, when you do electrical work, it is measure twice, cut once. We want to make sure everything is done correctly, because again, if you screw it up, you're in a bad way. If we put one pin on the ground pad on the JAMA edge and we search around, we're going to start seeing continuity. Same thing with 5 volt, and we can see there's no direct continuity between 5 volt and ground. That would be a very bad thing. You will see some connection, and that is because voltage can sync to ground. It's a whole electronic thing, and I'm not going to get too far into it. And if we go over to the 12 volt rail, we're going to see we have continuity there as well, but to nothing else. And definitely check all this before you put power to the device, because if you make a mistake, it is instantaneously going to be a problem. And because the video ground is shared with the common ground, I can go ahead and put the probe in the back there, hit some metal, and we're going to see we have continuity through as well. We're 100% good to go. At this point in time, I realized I probably should have made my harness a little bit longer. I kind of wanted to put my super gun next to this board in that configuration. We kind of have to go face to face on it. But now we have all of the connections there that we need to power test this board and see what's going to happen. And I do still have a spare 5 volt line that I might use later, but because that is active and not in use, you want to make sure you protect. So I'll just pop a little piece of heat shrink tube over there, hit it with a lighter, and you will see that now it is insulated from anything. Doesn't matter what that taps, it's not going to make a connection. Now, I could have just desoldered it, but I do have plans for it in a separate video. But now we have video and power into our super gun, and we can go ahead and plug this thing in and see that it works. It goes through the boot loading screen, and we're into Operation Tiger. The board is functional. It wants me to press start, but here's the thing. I don't have a start button yet. I have absolutely no controls. That is a part 2 if you guys want to see it, so tell me down below again, because either way I'm going to be doing it and talking about real gameplay of this game. Showing you some main footage again. It is XY potentiometer based. It's not a light gun, so you just move an analog stick or a flight stick back and forth, and that's how you control it. All of the controls go through this IDC connector. It's a 60 pin, and it's going to be an absolute metric pain in the ass to go ahead and wire this whole thing up. There's 60 pins. I only need about 5 of them, but I hate tracing ribbon cables. It is a pain. But that is everything that goes into collecting something like this. Operation Tiger is exceedingly rare. Like I said, I know of 3 boards, and one of them is sitting in front of you here on my table. Well, I guess not in front of you, in front of me, because you're watching on your phone or computer. But this is all it takes just to get something like this power tested. I haven't even touched controls yet. I still have a decent amount of the way to go, but I am very close to playing a game I've always wanted to play on original hardware. Sure, that Operation Tiger, super rare, super fun, and I can't wait to show you more. Bye-bye.